The cargo ship Horizon's Grace moved slowly toward the docking station. It was a large vessel, old but reliable, carrying goods from one end of the galaxy to the other. The ship had been traveling for 3 standard months and the crew was tired. They needed supplies. They needed rest. Most importantly, they needed to pass the mandatory health inspection. Park Tiho stood near the window of the cargo bay and watched the station grow larger. It was called Junction Point 7, a neutral station where many species came together for trade and travel. Tiho had seen it before, maybe 4 or 5 times in the past 2 years. It was not special to him. It was just another stop. He was a simple man, 34 years old, brown hair that was always messy, strong hands from years of hard work. Back on Earth, he had worked in construction. He built buildings, carried heavy materials, and climbed tall structures without fear. Then the opportunity came to work on alien ships, and he took it. The pay was better. The work was similar. Lift things, move things, fix things when they broke. The other humans on the ship called him quiet. The aliens called him strange. Tiho did not mind either word. He did his job and stayed out of trouble. That was enough for him. The ship connected to the station with a loud metal sound. The docking was complete. A voice came through the speakers in the common language of the Galactic Union. All crew members must report to Medical Bay 4 for mandatory health screening. This is required by Union law. No exceptions. Tiho sighed. He hated medical screenings, not because he was afraid but because they took too long. He had planned to eat lunch first. Now he would have to wait. He walked through the long hallways of the station. Other crew members walked with him. There were humans but also Korani. The Korani were the main species on this ship. They were tall, thin creatures with hard outer shells like insects. They had 6 limbs and large eyes that saw in many directions at once. Their skin was a dark blue color, and they moved with careful, precise steps. Tiho had worked with Korani for 2 years now. He found them polite but nervous. They worried about everything. Safety rules, proper procedures, correct temperatures. They did not like surprises or risks. Tiho respected them, but he did not fully understand them. Medical Bay 4 was a large white room filled with machines. Everything was clean and bright. Korani doctors and nurses moved around, preparing equipment. At the center of the room stood a scanning device. It was shaped like a large ring, and crew members would step inside one by one. The scan was supposed to check for diseases, parasites, or anything dangerous that could spread on the station. It was a standard procedure. Nothing to worry about. Tiho waited in line. He watched the Korani crew members go first. They stepped into the scanner, stood still for a few seconds, and then stepped out. The doctors looked at their results on floating holographic screens and nodded. Everything was fine. Next person. When it was Tiho's turn, he stepped forward without hesitation. A Korani doctor stood at the control panel. Her name tag said Dr. Velith. She was older than the other Korani, and she moved with the confidence of someone who had done this job for many years. Her large, compound eyes looked at Tiho with polite interest. "Please step into the scanner and remain still," she said. Her voice was calm and professional. Tiho walked into the ring and stood with his arms at his sides. He felt a small vibration as the machine turned on. Blue light moved up and down his body. It took maybe 10 seconds. Then the light stopped, and the machine made a soft sound. "Scan complete," the machine announced. "You may step out." Tiho stepped out of the ring. He expected the doctor to nod and send him away like she had done with the others. Instead, Dr. Velith was staring at her screen. Her body had become very still. Her 6 limbs were frozen in place. "Is there a problem?" Tiho asked. Dr. Velith did not answer. She touched the screen several times, zooming in on different parts of the image. Then she turned to a younger Korani nurse standing nearby. "Drenna," she said, her voice tight, "come look at this." The nurse called Drenna walked over quickly. She was younger, with a lighter blue shell and curious eyes. When she looked at the screen, she made a small clicking sound with her mouth. It was a sound of shock. Tiho felt confused. He looked at the screen, trying to understand what they saw. The image showed his skeleton, displayed in glowing white lines against a dark background. It looked normal to him. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 skull, everything in the right place. "What is wrong?" he asked. Dr. Velith turned to face him. Her eyes were wide, and Tiho could see something in them that surprised him. It was fear. "Sir," she said slowly, "this scan shows 17 separate locations of bone fractures throughout your body." Tiho blinked. "Okay." 17, Dr. Velith repeated as if he had not heard her correctly. "Your ribs show signs of multiple breaks. Your collarbone was fractured, your wrist, your ankle, 2 of your spine bones, several fingers." She paused. "How are you standing?" Tiho looked at her for a moment. Then he looked at the screen again. He could see the marks she was talking about. Small lines and spots where the bones were slightly different in color. Old breaks, healed long ago. "Those are old injuries," he said. "They healed." Dr. Velith made a strange sound in her throat. She looked at Drenna, then back at Tiho. "Healed," she repeated. "Sir, bones do not simply heal. Damage of this level would cause permanent disability, or death." Tiho did not know how to respond to that. To him, broken bones were a normal part of life. He had broken his first bone at age 10 when he fell from a tree. It hurt for a few weeks and then it was fine. This was not unusual. This was just how bodies worked. But the look on Dr. Velith's face told him that she saw things very differently. She pressed a button on her console. A moment later, 2 security officers entered the room. They were large Korani with thick shells and weapons at their sides. "Please escort this individual to interview room 3, Dr. Velith said. "I need to report this to the station authorities." "Wait," Tiho said, holding up his hands. "What is happening? What did I do?" Dr. Velith looked at him with an expression he could not read. "That is what we need to find out," she said. "This level of physical trauma does not happen by accident. Someone did this to you, and we need to know who." Tiho opened his mouth to argue, but the security officers were already moving toward him. They were polite but firm, guiding him out of the medical bay and into the hallway. As he walked, Tiho felt deeply confused. He was being treated like a victim of some terrible crime, but he had not been attacked. He had not been tortured. He had just lived a normal human life. He wondered if maybe normal was not the same word in every language. Interview room 3 was a small white room with no windows. There was a metal table in the center and 2 chairs on each side. The lights above were bright and cold. Tiho sat in one of the chairs and waited. He was not scared. He was annoyed. His lunch time had passed and his stomach was making angry sounds. He had done nothing wrong, and yet here he was, sitting in a room that looked like a prison cell, all because of some old broken bones. The door opened with a soft hiss. Dr. Velith entered first, carrying a small tablet in one of her 6 hands. Behind her came 2 station officials. They were also Korani, but they wore different uniforms, dark colors with silver symbols. They looked serious and important. Dr. Velith sat across from Tiho. The 2 officials stood behind her, watching him with their large compound eyes. "Thank you for your patience," Dr. Velith said. Her voice was calm, but Tiho could hear tension underneath it. "We have some questions for you." "I already told you," Tiho said. "Those bones healed a long time ago. I am fine." "We understand that you believe you are fine," one of the officials said. He was taller than the others and spoke with authority. "But the evidence suggests otherwise. Trauma of this level is extremely concerning." "Evidence of what?" Tiho asked. Dr. Velith placed her tablet on the table. The screen lit up, showing the image of Tiho's skeleton again. She zoomed in on different areas, highlighting each fracture site with red circles. "Let me explain what we see," she said. "Your collarbone shows a complete break that healed at an angle. Your third and fourth ribs on the left side both show fracture lines. Your right wrist has damage to two separate bones. Your left ankle shows signs of a severe break. Two vertebrae in your lower spine have compression damage. And your fingers, she paused, counting. At least 5 of your fingers show evidence of past breaks. She looked up at him. This is not normal wear on a body. This is systematic damage, the kind we see in survivors of extreme violence or torture. Tiho stared at her. For a moment he did not know what to say. Then slowly he understood. The Korani thought someone had hurt him on purpose. They thought he was a victim. "You think I was tortured," he said. "We think something happened to you," the tall official said. "Something very bad, and we want to help you. But first we need to know the truth. Who did this to you? Where did it happen? Is your species currently at war?" Tiho almost laughed. The situation was so strange to him, but he could see that the Korani were completely serious. They were genuinely worried about him. "Can I see the scan again?" he asked. Dr. Velith turned the tablet toward him. Tiho leaned forward and looked at each highlighted area. As he studied the image, memories came back to him. Each red circle was a story. Each fracture was a moment from his past. "Oh," he said softly, "that." The Korani leaned forward, waiting for him to continue. Tiho pointed at the collarbone. "I broke this when I was 12 years old. I was riding my bicycle down a big hill. I went too fast and crashed into a fence. My mother was very angry." He moved his finger to the ribs. "These happened when I was 25. I was climbing a rock wall with my friends. My rope slipped and I fell about 4 meters. I hit a ledge on the way down." He shrugged. "It hurt a lot. I could not breathe properly for a few weeks." The Korani were staring at him now. Their eyes were very wide. Tiho pointed at his wrist. "This was from my job. I worked in construction. A metal beam fell and landed on my arm. The doctors put a cast on it for 6 weeks and then it was fine." "A metal beam," Dr. Velith repeated slowly, "fell on your arm." "Yes, it happens sometimes on construction sites. That is why we wear helmets." He moved to the ankle. "This was from playing soccer. I kicked the ball at the same time as another player. Our legs crashed together. I heard the bone crack, very loud sound." He smiled slightly at the memory. "We lost that game." The tall official made a small sound. It might have been disbelief. Tiho pointed at his spine. "The back injury was more serious. I was riding a motorcycle and a car hit me from behind. I flew through the air and landed on the road. I spent 2 months recovering from that one." "You were hit by a vehicle," the official said, "and you survived." "Yes, I was lucky. Some people die from accidents like that." Finally, Tiho looked at his fingers. "The fingers are from different things. I closed a door on one. I hit another with a hammer by accident. One got bent backward during a fight when I was young and stupid." He wiggled his fingers. "They all work fine now." The room was very quiet. Dr. Velith and the 2 officials looked at each other. Tiho could not read their expressions, but he sensed that they were having trouble processing what he had said. "Let me understand," Dr. Velith said carefully. "You are telling us that all of these injuries were accidents, normal events from your daily life." "Yes," Tiho said. "Well, the motorcycle crash was not normal. That was bad luck. But the others, yes, normal things. You fell 4 meters while climbing, for recreation. Rock climbing is a popular hobby on Earth. You were struck by a metal beam at your workplace. Construction is a dangerous job, but someone has to build things. You broke your ankle playing a game. Soccer is very competitive." Dr. Velith set down her tablet. She pressed her front 2 limbs together, a gesture that Tiho had learned meant deep thought or stress among the Korani. "Among my people," she said slowly, "a single broken bone is a life-changing event. Our exoskeletons do not heal the way your internal bones do. If we break, we stay broken. We must use mechanical supports for the rest of our lives. Sometimes the damage is so severe that we do not survive." She looked at Tiho with something new in her eyes. Not fear exactly, something closer to wonder. "You have 17 fractures," she continued. "And you walk, you work, you live as if nothing happened." Tiho nodded. "The bones healed, humans heal." "But the pain," Drenna said. The young nurse had been standing in the corner, listening quietly. Now she stepped forward. "The pain must have been terrible. How do you live with such memories?" Tiho thought about this. It was a strange question to him. Yes, breaking bones hurt. It hurt a lot, but the pain always ended. The body fixed itself. Life continued. "Pain goes away," he said. "You just have to wait." The Korani looked at each other again. The tall official spoke quietly to his colleague in their own language. Tiho caught a few words that he recognized. Impossible, dangerous, survive. Dr. Velith turned back to him. "I must apologize," she said. "We assumed you were a victim of violence. We did not understand that your species simply lives like this." "It is okay," Tiho said. "We probably seem strange to you." "Strange is not the right word," the official said. "I am not sure what the right word is." Tiho's stomach growled loudly. The sound made Drenna jump slightly. "Can I go eat now?" Tiho asked. "I missed my lunch because of this." Dr. Velith blinked all of her eyes at once. "Yes," she said. "Yes, you may go, but I would like to speak with you again later. I have more questions." "About my bones." "About your species," she said. "About how you survive in a universe that seems determined to destroy you." Tiho stood up from his chair. He stretched his arms above his head, and his shoulders made small popping sounds. The Korani flinched at the noise. "I do not know the answer to that question," he said honestly. "We just do. It is all we have ever known." He walked to the door. Before he left, he looked back at them. "Thank you for worrying about me," he said. "It is kind, but I am really okay. Humans break, then we fix. That is how we are." He left the room, heading toward the station cafeteria. Behind him, 3 Korani stood in silence, trying to understand a species that treated 17 broken bones like a minor inconvenience. Dr. Velith looked down at her tablet again. She stared at the red circles marking each fracture. Each one was a moment that should have ended a life. Each one was just another day for a human. "What kind of world creates creatures like this?" she whispered. No one had an answer. Nari was in the middle of her second cup of coffee when she received the message. She was sitting in the crew lounge of the Horizon's Grace, reading a book on her tablet. The day had been quiet so far. She liked quiet days. Then her communicator beeped. The message was from Dr. Velith, the Korani medical officer at the station. It said, "Please come to Medical Bay 4 immediately. We need a human cultural translator. It is urgent." Nari frowned. She was the ship's medic and translator, the bridge between humans and aliens on the crew. Usually, her translation work involved explaining human expressions or social customs. Things like why humans shook hands or why they laughed at certain jokes. Simple cultural differences. The word urgent worried her. She put down her coffee and walked quickly to the station. When she arrived at Medical Bay 4, she found Dr. Velith sitting at her desk. The older Korani looked exhausted. Her usually bright blue shell seemed dull, and her movements were slow. "Thank you for coming," Dr. Velith said. "Please sit down." Nari sat across from her. "What happened? Is someone hurt?" "That is exactly the question I am trying to answer," Dr. Velith said. She touched her console and a holographic image appeared between them. It was a human skeleton marked with red circles. "Do you know this crew member, Park Tiho?" "Tiho?" Nari said. "Yes, I know him. He works in the cargo bay, quiet man, very reliable." She looked at the image more closely. "Are those fractures?" 17 of them, Dr. Velith said. "All healed. He says they were accidents, childhood falls, sports injuries, workplace incidents. Nari studied the image. She saw the patterns that Dr. Velith was highlighting. Ribs, collarbone, wrist, ankle, spine, fingers. She nodded slowly. "That sounds about right for a human his age," she said, "especially one who worked in construction and does rock climbing." Dr. Velith made a clicking sound of frustration. "You say this as if it is normal." "Because it is normal," Nari said gently. "For humans, I mean. Most adults have broken at least one bone by the time they reach 30. Some have broken many more." "But how?" Dr. Velith pressed her front limbs together tightly. "How is this possible? How do you survive?" Nari leaned back in her chair. She understood now why she had been called. This was not a medical emergency. This was a crisis of understanding. The Korani had discovered something about humans that they could not process. "Let me explain something about human biology," Nari said. "Our bones are not like your exoskeleton. You have a hard outer shell that protects you, but if it breaks, it cannot repair itself. Our bones are inside our bodies. They are made of living tissue. When they break, our bodies send special cells to repair the damage. The bone grows back together, often stronger than before at the break point." Dr. Velith listened carefully. "Stronger than before." "Yes, the healing process creates extra bone material at the fracture site. It is called a callus. Sometimes the healed bone is actually harder to break in the same place a second time." "That is remarkable," Dr. Velith said. "But the pain, the damage, how do humans continue to function while injured?" Nari smiled sadly. "We do not have a choice. On Earth, if you stopped every time you got hurt, you would not survive long. Our planet is dangerous. Predators, weather, diseases, accidents. Humans evolved to keep moving even when damaged. Our bodies produce chemicals that reduce pain and increase focus during emergencies. We call it adrenaline. Your own bodies drug you to ignore damage." "In a way, yes. It helped our ancestors survive long enough to escape danger. Now it just helps us finish our workday after a minor injury." Dr. Velith was silent for a long moment. Then she asked, "What is a minor injury to a human?" Nari thought about this. "Cuts and bruises are very minor, small burns, muscle strains. Even broken fingers or toes are considered minor because you can still walk and work. Major injuries would be things like broken legs, serious head trauma, or damage to internal organs. Things that truly stop you from functioning." "A broken finger is minor," Dr. Velith repeated slowly. "Tiho mentioned that he broke several fingers over the years. I am not surprised. Construction workers use their hands constantly. Accidents happen." The door to the office opened, and Drenna entered. The young nurse was carrying a tablet filled with information. Her eyes were wide with a strange mix of horror and fascination. "Dr. Velith," Drenna said, "I researched human medical records like you asked. The information is disturbing." "Show us," Dr. Velith said. Drenna placed her tablet on the desk and began scrolling through data. Humans have documented cases of individuals surviving falls from extreme heights. One human fell from an aircraft at 10,000 meters and survived. "Impossible," Dr. Velith said. "There are witnesses and medical records," Drenna said. "Another human survived being struck by lightning 7 separate times throughout his life. Another lived for years with a metal rod through his brain after an explosion accident." Nari nodded. She had heard of these cases. They were famous examples of human durability. "I also found information about human recreational activities," Drenna continued. Her voice became higher as if she was asking a question she did not want answered. "Humans engage in organized violence for entertainment. Boxing, wrestling, something called mixed martial arts. They hit each other until one person cannot continue, and other humans pay money to watch this." Dr. Velith looked at Nari. "Is this true?" "Yes," Nari admitted. "Combat sports are very popular on Earth. Millions of people watch them." Why would you hurt each other for entertainment? Nari paused. This was hard to explain. Humans have always been violent. It is part of our history. Combat sports give us a controlled way to express that violence. The fighters choose to participate. They train for years. Many of them see it as an art form. An art form, Dr. Velith said flatly. Drenna continued reading from her tablet. Humans also do something called extreme sports. They jump from mountains with fabric wings. They climb frozen waterfalls. They ride waves that are taller than buildings. The records show that many humans die doing these activities, but others continue to do them anyway. Why? Dr. Velith asked. Why take such risks when you know the danger? Nari thought carefully before answering. Because we enjoy it. Humans feel most alive when we are facing danger. The fear, the excitement, the sense of accomplishment when we survive. It is addictive. Some humans spend their whole lives chasing that feeling. Dr. Velith pressed all 6 of her limbs against her desk. It was a gesture of extreme stress. I do not understand your species at all. Nari reached across and placed her hand gently on the desk near Dr. Velith's limbs. May I tell you something that might help? Dr. Velith nodded slowly. Humans are afraid all the time, Nari said. We know we are fragile. We know our lives are short. We know the universe is full of things that can kill us. But we decided long ago that fear would not control us. We run toward danger because the alternative is hiding forever, and hiding is not living. The room was quiet. Drenna had stopped scrolling through her tablet. Both Korani were looking at Nari with their compound eyes. You live with fear, Drenna said softly, but you do not let it stop you. We cannot afford to, Nari said. Earth never gave us that choice. The animals were dangerous. The weather was dangerous. Even our own bodies try to kill us sometimes with diseases and failures. We learn to keep moving no matter what. It is the only way we know. Dr. Velith looked back at the holographic image of Tiho's skeleton. 17 fractures, 17 moments of pain and damage. And yet the man was walking around the station right now, probably eating lunch without a care in the world. Your species is terrifying, Dr. Velith said quietly. Nari laughed softly. Most humans would disagree. We think we are quite fragile compared to other species. You survive things that would kill us. You enjoy activities that cause injury. You break and heal and break again, and you treat it as normal. Dr. Velith shook her head slowly. That is not fragility. That is something else entirely. Drenna spoke up again. The man, Park Tiho, he seemed so calm when we questioned him. He was more worried about missing his lunch than about his injuries. That sounds like Tiho, Nari said with a smile. He is a practical man. He does not spend time worrying about things he cannot change. The bones are healed. The past is done. Why think about it? Is that common among humans? Drenna asked. This attitude. Yes and no, Nari said. All humans deal with trauma differently. Some carry it with them forever. Others let it go and move on. Tiho is the type who moves on. He learned from each accident and kept living. That is his way of surviving. Dr. Velith finally sat back in her chair. She looked tired, but Nari saw something new in her posture. Respect, maybe, or the beginning of understanding. Thank you for explaining, Dr. Velith said. I still do not fully understand humans, but I understand them better than I did this morning. Nari stood up to leave. If you have more questions, you can always ask me. That is what I am here for. I will have many more questions, Dr. Velith said. But first, I need time to process what I have learned today. As Nari walked toward the door, Drenna called out to her. You, Nari, can I ask one more thing? Nari turned back. Of course. Drenna's voice was small and curious. Are you afraid right now? Nari considered the question honestly. She thought about the dangers of space travel, the thin metal walls between her and the vacuum, the countless things that could go wrong on any given day. Yes, she said, A little. I am always a little afraid. But you keep going. Nari smiled, every single day. She left the medical bay and walked back to her ship. Behind her, two Korani sat in silence, trying to understand a species that had made fear into a companion rather than a master. Word spread quickly on Junction Point 7. It always did. A station full of different species was also a station full of gossip. By the end of the first day, almost everyone had heard some version of the story about the human with 17 broken bones. Tiho noticed the change immediately. When he walked through the station corridors, people looked at him differently. Korani moved aside to let him pass. Other species whispered to each other as he walked by. Some watched him with curiosity. Others watched him with something closer to fear. He did not like it. In the station cafeteria, he sat alone at his usual table. The food was acceptable, some kind of grain mixed with vegetables. The humans on the crew called it alien oatmeal because it had a similar texture. Tiho did not mind it. Food was food. A group of Korani workers at a nearby table kept glancing at him. They were trying to be subtle about it, but their large compound eyes made it obvious. Finally, one of them stood up and walked over. "Excuse me," the Korani said. He was young with a pale blue shell. "Are you the human from the medical scan?" Tiho chewed his food slowly. "Yes." "Is it true that you have 17 broken bones?" "They are healed now," Tiho said. "But yes, that is what the scan showed." The Korani made a clicking sound. Tiho had learned this meant amazement. "How did you survive?" "I did not do anything special. I just healed. Human bodies heal." More Korani from the table came over. Soon there were 5 of them standing around Tiho, asking questions. How did the bones break? Did it hurt? Could he still move normally? Did he have special medical treatment? Tiho answered their questions as simply as he could. Yes, it hurt. No, he did not need special treatment. Yes, he could move normally. The bones were just bones now. One of the Korani asked the question that seemed to be on everyone's mind. Are all humans like this? Tiho thought about it. Most humans break at least one bone in their life, some more than others. I am not unusual. The Korani looked at each other. Their body language showed disbelief. To them, Tiho was talking about the impossible as if it was boring. "Thank you for answering our questions," the pale blue Korani said. "We did not mean to disturb your meal." "It is okay," Tiho said. "I understand that it seems strange to you." The group returned to their table, but they continued to look at him throughout the meal. Tiho finished his food and left quickly. He did not enjoy being watched. In another part of the station, Dr. Velith was also having a restless day. She sat in her office, surrounded by screens filled with human medical data. She had been reading for hours, and each new piece of information made her feel more unsettled. Humans could survive blood loss that would kill a Korani instantly. They could function with diseases that would be immediately fatal to most species. They could live with missing limbs, damaged organs, even pieces of their brain removed. Their bodies simply adapted and kept going. But it was not just their physical abilities that disturbed Velith. It was their attitude toward damage. She read about human sports again, not just fighting sports but others. Football, where large humans crashed into each other at high speeds. Ice hockey, played with weapons on a slippery surface. Rugby, which seemed designed specifically to cause injury. And these were considered entertainment. Humans watched them for fun. They cheered when someone was hit hard. She found medical studies about human soldiers who continued fighting after being shot multiple times. She read about accident survivors who walked away from crashes that destroyed vehicles. She discovered that humans had a phrase for their durability, only human, but they used it to describe weakness, not strength. They truly believed they were fragile. Velith closed her eyes and pressed her limbs against her head. Nothing about humans made sense. Her door chimed. She looked up to see Drenna standing in the entrance. "May I come in?" Drenna asked. "Yes, please." Drenna walked in and sat across from Velith. The young nurse looked just as tired and confused as Velith felt. "I cannot stop thinking about them," Drenna admitted. "The humans. I keep reading about their history, their biology. The more I learn, the less I understand." "What have you found?" "Their planet," Drenna said. "Earth. It is a terrible place. There are areas so hot that the ground can burn you, areas so cold that your blood freezes. The weather creates storms that destroy entire cities. The ground shakes and splits open. Water falls from the sky and floods their homes. Mountains explode with liquid fire. And they evolved there. They did more than evolve. They conquered it. They live everywhere on their planet. Hot places, cold places, wet places, dry places. They built cities on ground that shakes. They built homes near mountains that explode. When disasters destroyed their settlements, they rebuilt in the same places." Velith tried to understand this. Why would any species stay in a dangerous location after being hurt by it? "There is more," Drenna continued. "Their planet has millions of other species. Many of them are predators, animals with claws and teeth that hunt and kill, insects that spread disease, tiny organisms that attack from inside their bodies. The humans competed with all of them. They survived wars against nature itself. And they won. They won so completely that they now worry about protecting the species that once hunted them." Drenna shook her head. "They nearly destroyed their own planet with their success. Now they try to save it. They feel guilty for being too good at survival." Velith sat in silence for a long moment. She thought about the Korani home world. It was a calm planet. Stable weather, gentle seasons, few predators. The Korani had evolved in safety. They developed technology slowly and carefully. They avoided risk because risk was unnecessary. Humans were the opposite. They had been shaped by danger. Every part of their biology, their psychology, their culture was designed to survive threats. They did not avoid risk because risk was their entire existence. "I called you, Nari, to ask another question," Velith said finally. "I asked her if humans are aware that they are terrifying." "What did she say?" "She laughed. She said most humans think they are weak." Drenna made a soft clicking sound. "How can they believe that?" "I think because they compare themselves to each other, not to us. They see their limitations, not their strengths. They see humans who died, not humans who survived." Velith looked at the screens around her office. "They do not realize how extraordinary their ordinary is." On the horizon's grace, Tiho was trying to work. He was in the cargo bay, moving crates from one storage area to another. It was physical work that he enjoyed. His body moved, his mind stayed quiet, simple and good. But his crew members kept interrupting him. Both humans and Korani stopped by to talk about the scan. The humans thought it was funny. They shared their own injury stories and laughed about broken bones and stupid accidents. The Korani listened with horror and fascination. By the end of his shift, Tiho was exhausted, not from the work but from the talking. He was not a man who enjoyed attention. He preferred to stay invisible. He went to the observation deck to find some peace. The deck was a small room with large windows that looked out at the stars. Normally it was empty during work hours, but today someone was already there. Nari sat by the window, holding a cup of something warm. She looked up when Tiho entered and smiled. "Hiding from your fans?" she asked. Tiho grunted and sat down nearby. "I do not have fans. I have people who will not stop asking questions." "Welcome to being interesting," Nari said. "The Korani have never met anyone quite like you." "I am not special. I am just a human." Nari laughed softly. "That is exactly what makes you special to them. They are realizing that all humans are like you. Every single one of us is a walking miracle of damage and recovery." Tiho looked out at the stars. They were bright and cold and very far away. "Do you think we are strange?" "Compared to other species, absolutely." Nari took a sip of her drink. But strange is not bad. We survived because we are strange. We adapted to a cruel world by becoming creatures who refuse to stay down. I never thought of it that way. Most humans do not. We are too busy living to think about how unusual our living is. Nari set down her cup. But other species see it. They see us break and heal and break again, and they do not understand how we keep going. We do not have a choice, Tiho said. What else would we do? Stop living because it hurts sometimes. Exactly, Nari smiled at him. That is the human answer to everything. What else would we do? We do not know how to give up. It is not in our programming. Tiho thought about his life. The accidents, the injuries, the pain. The times he had felt broken in body and spirit. And yet here he was, sitting on a spaceship, looking at stars that his ancestors could only dream about. He had kept going because stopping never seemed like an option. Maybe that was the human superpower, not strength, not healing, just the inability to accept that the fight was over. I still do not like the attention, he said. Nari laughed. You will get used to it, or the next interesting thing will happen and everyone will forget about you. I hope it is the second one. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars spin slowly past the windows. Two humans, far from home, surrounded by species who were just beginning to understand what humanity really was. In her office, Dr. Velith added a new note to Tiho's medical file. Under species observations, she wrote, humans do not consider themselves remarkable. They see their survival as ordinary. This may be the most remarkable thing about them. She saved the file and closed her screens. Tomorrow, the Horizon's Grace would leave the station and continue its journey. Life would return to normal, but Velith knew she would never look at humans the same way again. They were not soft creatures to be protected. They were survivors of a brutal world, shaped by fire and ice and death. They carried their scars like badges and their stories like armor, and they did not even realize it. That, Velith decided, was both inspiring and deeply frightening. The Horizon's Grace departed Junction Point 7 on a cold morning. The docking clamps released with a heavy metallic sound, and the ship drifted slowly away from the station. Then the engines activated, and the vessel began its long journey to the next destination. Inside the ship, life returned to its normal routine. Cargo needed to be secured. Systems needed to be checked. Meals needed to be prepared. The drama of the medical scan faded into memory as the crew focused on their work. But something had changed. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was there. The Korani crew members no longer looked at the humans the same way. Before, they had seen the humans as strange aliens who were soft and short-lived, fragile creatures who needed careful handling. Now they saw something different. They saw survivors. When a human lifted a heavy crate, the Korani noticed the ease in their movements. When a human worked long hours without rest, the Korani wondered what drove them. When a human laughed at a minor injury or shrugged off a difficult situation, the Korani remembered the 17 broken bones. Park Tiho felt the change most directly. His Korani coworkers treated him with new respect. They asked his advice on physical tasks. They listened when he spoke about work methods. They no longer suggested he take extra breaks or avoid difficult jobs. At first, this pleased Tiho. Then it made him uncomfortable. He had not done anything to earn special treatment. He was just a man doing his job. 3 weeks after leaving the station, Tiho was working in the cargo bay when Drenna approached him. The young Korani nurse had been assigned to the ship for the next journey. She was supposed to be helping in the medical section, but Tiho had noticed her watching him several times. Park Tiho, she said, using his full name in the formal Korani way. May I speak with you? Tiho set down the crate he was carrying. Yes, what is it? Drenna hesitated. Her 6 limbs moved nervously, a sign of uncertainty. I have been thinking about you, about humans. About what I learned at the station. What have you been thinking? I do not understand something, and I cannot stop wondering about it. Drenna looked at him with her large, compound eyes. You have broken 17 bones. Each break must have been painful and frightening. Each one could have ended your ability to work, to move, to live normally. Yes, Tiho said, that is true. But you continue, you still climb rocks, you still do dangerous work, you still take risks. Drenna's voice became smaller. Why do you not stop? Tiho thought about this question. It was the same question Dr. Velith had asked at the station. The same question that seemed to confuse every alien who heard his story. And it was a hard question to answer because to Tiho, the answer was obvious. Let me tell you about my first broken bone, he said. I was 10 years old. I was climbing a tree in my grandmother's garden. I wanted to reach the highest branch because I could see the mountains from there. I slipped and fell, and my arm broke when I hit the ground. Drenna listened carefully. Her body had become very still. It hurt more than anything I had ever felt, Tiho continued. I screamed and cried. My grandmother ran to me and held me while we waited for help. I thought I would never use my arm again. I thought my life was over. But you healed. I healed. 6 weeks in a cast, then many more weeks of exercises to make my arm strong again. And do you know what I did when I was fully recovered? What? I climbed the same tree. I reached the highest branch. I saw the mountains. Tiho smiled at the memory. My grandmother was furious. She said I was foolish and would hurt myself again. She was probably right. Why did you do it? Drenna asked. Why go back to the thing that hurt you? Tiho was quiet for a moment. He tried to find the right words. Because the fall did not win. The pain did not win. If I had stopped climbing, then the injury would have taken something from me. It would have taken the mountains. It would have taken the joy of reaching high places. I did not want to lose those things. So you risked more pain to keep something precious. Yes, that is exactly right. Tiho picked up his crate again. Humans break. It happens. We cannot avoid it, but we can choose what the breaking means. We can let it end us or we can let it teach us. What did your breaks teach you? Tiho thought about each injury. The bicycle crash, the rock climbing fall, the construction accident, the motorcycle collision, the soccer game, the fights, the countless small damages that had marked his body throughout his life. They taught me that I am stronger than I think. They taught me that pain passes. They taught me that the things I love are worth the risk of losing them. He adjusted the crate in his arms. And they taught me that scars are just stories written on the body. They prove that I was alive. They prove that I survived. Drenna was silent for a long time. Tiho could see her processing his words, trying to fit them into her understanding of the universe. Among my people, she said finally, we avoid all unnecessary risk. We plan carefully. We protect ourselves. We see damage as failure. That is wise. But we also miss things. We do not climb to see mountains. We do not push our bodies to discover what they can do. We do not know what we are capable of because we never test our limits. Drenna looked at her own limbs. I wonder sometimes what I would be if I had been born human. You would be yourself, Tiho said, just with different limitations. Perhaps. Drenna straightened her posture. I asked my original question poorly. Let me try again. Why do you keep going? Not after individual injuries, but in general. What drives humans to keep fighting when the universe tries so hard to destroy you? This was the deeper question, the one that Tiho had never really tried to answer before. He set the crate down again and gave it his full attention. I think, he said slowly, it is because stopping would mean the fall won. Drenna tilted her head. The fall. All the falls, all the breaks, all the pain, all the failures and accidents and disasters. Every time life knocked us down, we had a choice. Stay down or get up. If we stay down, then all of it was for nothing. All the suffering meant nothing because we let it defeat us. Tiho looked around the cargo bay. Metal walls, artificial lights, the hum of engines keeping them alive in the empty void of space. Humans keep going because we refuse to let the falls win, he said. We refuse to let pain be the end of our story. We refuse to believe that we are too broken to continue. Every time we get up, we prove that we are more than our injuries. We prove that we are alive. Drenna was writing on a small tablet. Tiho had not noticed her take it out. She was recording his words. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Remembering," she said. "I want to remember this conversation. I think it is important." "I am not a philosopher. I am just a cargo handler." "You are a human," Drenna said. "That is philosophy enough." She finished writing and looked up at him. "Thank you, Park Tiho. You have given me much to think about." "You are welcome, though I am not sure what I have given you." Drenna put her tablet away. "Perspective, you have given me perspective." She turned to leave, then stopped and looked back. "One more question. Do you have any regrets? About the injuries, about the risks you took?" Tiho considered this carefully. The motorcycle accident had left him with back pain that still bothered him on cold days. The broken ribs sometimes ached when he breathed too deeply. His ankle predicted bad weather better than any forecast. "No," he said, "I regret the mistakes. I regret being careless or stupid. But I do not regret living. The injuries were the price of a full life. I think it was a fair trade." Drenna nodded once, then walked out of the cargo bay. Tiho returned to his work. He moved crates, checked inventories, secured cargo for transport. Simple work, honest work, the kind of work that let him feel useful and tired at the end of each day. In the medical bay, Dr. Velith was reviewing crew health records. She had transferred to the Horizon's Grace for this journey, wanting to continue studying the human crew members. When Drenna returned, Velith looked up with interest. "Did you speak with him?" Velith asked. "Yes," Drenna sat down heavily. "He is remarkable, and he does not know it." "What did he say?" Drenna told her about the conversation, the story of the tree, the philosophy of refusing to let falls win, the idea that getting up was a form of victory. When she finished, Velith was quiet for several moments. Then she opened Tiho's medical file and added a final note. "Human endurance is not physical. It is philosophical. They do not survive because their bodies are strong. They survive because their spirits refuse to stop. Each injury is a battle. Each recovery is a victory. They have been fighting the universe since they first walked on two legs, and they have never stopped." This is not courage. Courage implies awareness of danger. To humans, danger is simply the background noise of existence. They do not fight because they are brave. They fight because they do not know any other way. I believe this makes them the most resilient species in the galaxy, and perhaps the most dangerous, because you cannot defeat an enemy who does not know how to surrender. Velith saved the file and closed her screen. Through the ship's windows, stars moved slowly past like distant fires. Somewhere in the cargo bay, a human with 17 broken bones was lifting heavy crates and thinking about nothing in particular. He did not know that he had changed the way an entire species thought about humanity. He did not know that his simple words would be studied and discussed for years. He was just Park Tiho, just a man, just a human. And that, as it turned out, was more than enough. The Horizon's Grace continued its journey through the dark spaces between stars. In the medical bay, a Korani doctor wondered about the nature of endurance. In the corridors, crew members from different worlds worked side by side, learning to see each other with new eyes. And in the cargo bay, a man with a body marked by 17 old breaks hummed quietly to himself and thought about the mountains he used to see from his grandmother's tree. The falls had not won. They never would.